Would you like to stop your dog from digging or stealing food off the counter? Watch this video.
So I removed all the barriers around the couch yesterday morning because we had company coming through and I was sick and tired of all the barriers around the couch. And so she goes to scratch at the edge of the couch and I hit the thing. I think I ended up having to go up to 42 maybe.
Okay.
And she kind of stopped and, and then she'd go at it and then I'd do it again and she'd stop and sort of look around and
Figuring it out.
oh, it was amazing.
Did she stop doing it?
Mm-hmm. She may have.
Did she go back to it again a little later?
This morning, no, not later.
Okay.
Like she went at the carpet once, but again, quick correction, she was good.
That's
It was
awesome.
amazing. So.
It's very black and white. When you give a stimulation or you correct the dog in the act of doing it, and when you do that, so she's digging at the couch, she's already been introduced to the remote, so we didn't have to worry about that barrier. And then as long as she's in the act of doing it and you give a 1-second correction while she's in the act of doing it, she will associate what is negative or that's not comfortable with the action.
Right.
It has to be in the moment. If you're ever going to use a remote for what is forbidden, it's like never are you allowed to eat dog poop, never are you allowed to eat rocks, never are you allowed to dig in my favorite flowers, never are you allowed to steal food off my counter, never are you allowed to scratch on my door, never are you allowed to stick your head in the trash. The theory behind it is if a dog jumps on the stove to get a steak, but then they burn their paw on the burner, you don't have to be there to teach them not to jump on the stove. And it doesn't matter how much they want the steak, they're not going to jump up there, right? So the point is that you didn't have to say anything. The stove taught them. So whether you're there or not, they'll be reliable. They'll be reliable because they respect the stove. Does that make sense?
Yep.
If you would like to learn more about dog training, then please click the subscribe button, turn on all notifications, and you will be notified about our latest videos. And the reason you don't say no when the dog is digging at the couch as an example that you're going to correct for, if you yell no, they'll know you're the source of that correction and they'll sneak it when you're not there. Yeah. It's like if they jump on the stove to get a steak, they burn the paw, and it's uncomfortable so they don't want to jump up there. The fact is that the stove didn't need your help.
Right.
They're just going to respect the stove 24/7 the way that is. But if you were to, she's digging at the couch, and you were to say no and correct, she'll learn and she'll see you as the source of correction. She'll sneak it when you're not there, so you would still have to block the behavior. But if she associates the stimulation with the couch, so that's just not a safe behavior, she won't do it whether you're there or not because she associates it with the couch and that behavior. Let's just say you have your kitchen counter and the dog jumps up in this area on your kitchen counter to get food, and you were to correct and the dog comes off the counter. What's going to happen is that dog is going to respect that area. But if you have a really long counter, it doesn't mean they respect your whole countertop. Okay. So this area is not safe, but I might be able to get something over here. So you're going to have to correct the dog in multiple areas. It's like if the dog is digging in the yard and you correct in this area while they're in the act of doing it, and then they're going to be like, well, that's not safe, so I'm going to dig over here. And you're going to have to correct the behavior multiple times to stop the behavior overall. Does that make sense?
We did that yesterday in the yard.
Maybe
I can eat this part of the blueberry plant. Maybe I can eat this part of the blueberry plant. Maybe I can eat this part of the blueberry plant.
So this is resonating what I'm saying, right? Well, I'm glad that we had that discussion because you had some freedom. You're like, I'm going to stop some of this stuff, girl. No, that's awesome. Everything you do with your body while you give a command becomes part of the command. So you have it around your neck, which I would never put it there. Personally, it has a thing, you can put a clip on the back so you put it on your hip.
Okay.
So it's not a big movement. But let's just say she can see you and you were to say something and she doesn't comply, and then you reach up and correct. This becomes a hand signal for correction, and the remote becomes the source.
Okay.
Whereas if you see her on the couch, first of all, if she's not looking at you, you don't have to worry about it.
Right.
But what I would do is I'd get it off my hip is where I'd keep it, unless it's already in my hand, but I'd get it in my hand so there's no movement, then I would quickly correct. But if the dog, so when I'm working a dog specifically, and I have the remote in my hand, it's just always in my hand. So when I'm with the dog, the remote's in my hand, it's just an extension of me. I pet with it, I might push the button and correct with it, but I don't have movement associated with the stimulation at that exact time. because that movement will draw attention to the remote.
so-
If you even are unsure, quickly get it in your hand so it's just at your side,
Right.
and the only thing moving is your button when stimulation comes.
Got it.
Does that make sense?
100%.
That is my recommendation. So it's super important as a takeaway on this. You never stimulate unless the dog, this is only for stop it behavior. This is not for walk, this is not for down, this is not for sit, it's not for any of that. It's just, if a dog touches a hot wire, it's gonna avoid that barrier. It's gonna be boundary trained. I mean, there's different techniques that we use creating this area is not safe. That is an excellent tool introduced correctly, and when the human's timing is correct. And if your dog has never felt the stimulation, but that's what I asked you yesterday. Once I realized she had already felt the stimulation, so I knew she had an understanding, and I knew that there was an area of her levels, okay? Some remotes go to 10. Some remotes, it just depends on how big the jumps are in stimulation. Some remotes will go from 0 to 127, like the one you have. And she was on a 43. I've had people feel it on their bare skin up to 30, and that's where they can just barely start feeling it.
Yeah.
It's about nerve structure. It's about how much hair the dog has. It depends on the drive that the dog is in. If she starts to chase a cat, 43 for digging at the couch is not gonna work. Does that make sense? You match your level of correction to the level of excitement. If she hadn't felt the stimulation before, based on her age, based on her breed, I was gonna have you start on possibly 15 or 20, which most humans can't even feel that on their bare skin.
Right, I can't.
But I was gonna have you start there to see, to gauge, and you would go up slowly to find her levels.
Right.
You've gotta always, when you're using a remote and you're introducing it for the first time, especially if you're not with a professional, you have to make sure that you are slowly, gradually finding where your dog will be. I've got dogs in here that collar itself is not, at 127 is not enough. Their nerve structure is such, or their coat is such, that I have to use a collar that has a higher intensity overall.
Wow.
I have dogs on that collar that are like on an 8. They're in for training right now, on a number 8. I can't even feel that. And I'm like, there's no way you can feel that and you have hair. But it's about nerve structure. And all we're looking for is a level of correction that they respect, so they choose to avoid it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And the human has to be consistent. So do you have any questions about the stop it behavior or what you were encountering when you were stopping her from doing the blueberries and the couch now and everything? Because you just started last night.
I do have a question.
Yeah.
It's the rocks. Like, we sat down, I thought, oh God, there's a rock, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
Is it just a matter of time over repetition that you're stopping her every time she's going for a rock?
Okay. Yep, that's great. Okay, we never want her to put rocks in her mouth. That can kill her,
I know.
right? I've had rocks taken out of my Rottweiler's belly. I've had that happen. And I'm like, where'd you even get this rock? You live in my house, right?
Yeah, I had no idea we had so many rocks available.
So this is the point, and that's a great question. First of all, I would think picking up rocks, and I would want to create, picking up rocks is forbidden.
Okay.
Never are you allowed to pick rocks up and play with them in your mouth, because it can just go right down the throat, all right? And you said, how many times do you correct? When she goes to show interest in a rock and you know that that is what she's doing, she's sniffing a rock like that, and then the next move is to pick it up in her mouth. Because you've seen that over and over,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Let's say you correct her on 20 and she stops. But then the next time she goes right back out to that rock and she goes to do it again. And you correct her on 20 and she stops. And then the next time you go back out, she goes right back to that rock. You're stopping the moment, but you are not stopping the behavior. You are not taking away the desire for the rock. And this principle goes the same for the blueberries. This principle goes the same for your couch. If she's digging at your carpet, digging at your couch, whatever it is. You can either continually stop the behavior, which is not wrong, but it's also, like, I like to get to a point where I can feel that she's safer and I don't have to watch her like a hawk and she's not gonna eat a rock. Then you increase your level. Because I don't want you to nag her to death by stopping the by just stopping the moment. I want her to look at a rock and go, I don't even want to be wrong. So that means you're going to raise your level.
Okay.
So if I was on 20 and she went to get it and she had it, let's say she had it in her mouth, and you correct her and she just spits it out. And then, but she still has interest in the rock, I would at least go to 35. I would at least raise my level by like 15. But because I have experience, I'll be honest, I know what I'm doing. I've trained thousands and thousands of dogs over the last 30 years. I'm dating myself. I don't want to negotiate something that's going to kill my dog.
Right.
And so I don't want people to mishear me. I'm a professional. I would jump 30 or 40 points based on the nerve structure of the dog and the dog's experience in the training methods I'm using. And I would go there quicker to make it forbidden, so the dog just chooses not to be wrong. So when they see the rock, they're like, I just don't want to be wrong.
Gotcha.
You have plenty of toys for your dog to play with. He doesn't need to play with a rock.
Right.
Does that make sense what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But because she's new and you're new, I would raise it for stuff that is forbidden. I'd raise it by 15 points. Okay, each time. Because we don't want her, again, we don't want to just stop the moment. We want to create, we want to fix it to where it's forbidden. She knows that it's not negotiable and she doesn't want it. Dogs do what benefit them. If she enjoys playing with the rock, she's going to play with it. And she's going to, maybe today.
Right.
But if she goes, nope, I don't even want to be wrong. I mean, there's just certain things we don't need to learn twice.
Yeah.
In our human life, right?
Right.
Aren't there just certain things we don't need to learn twice?
Yeah.
I have a few of those, okay? That's where we're at with that.
Okay.
When it comes to saving a dog's life, we need to not negotiate. But again, that comes with experience. If you've never used a remote, seek the advice of a professional, because you do not be standing next to her when you do it. Some dogs will turn and bite in misdirected aggression. Not because it makes them mean, they're being reactive. So anytime you're gonna correct like that, that dog needs to be out of your space.
Okay.
Do not have that dog next to you.
Okay.
You understand? So there's some variables here. So I'm telling everybody, seek the advice of a professional. But you've been researching, reading books, getting professional insight on how to use this safely, correct?
Correct.
So I feel more comfortable giving you this information.
Okay.
And I want people to hear what I'm saying. It's not for a novice just to go get that and start using it on their dog. In fact, that's why people have a negative mindset about stimulation or pinch collars or remote collars, is because the ignorance of the human can be unclear and unfair to the dog. And the most important thing that I want everybody to take away is nothing is their fault. Nothing that they're doing is their fault. We need to be educated and help them in a way that they're going to understand. Come here, baby. And the most important thing in life is that we are fair to our dog as we are leading them through life.
Right.
Okay? Do you have any other questions about that?
No.
So raise your level.
Yeah.
A little bit. For today's rough recap, dogs live in the moment. And so your dog must be in the act of doing whatever it is you're trying to fix when you're stimulating. Also, do not say anything when you are correcting your dog. Seek the advice from a professional before you ever introduce or use an e-collar on your dog for the first time. Your dog will never be the dog you want him to be until you're the leader they need you to be. Have a great day. Till the next lesson, we just thank you so much for listening. We hope you gained some value. And again, your dog will never be what you want him to be until you're the leader they need you to be. And we just thank you for your time, and we'll see you next time.